and welcome to Pipeline's first webinar in partnership with Bentley. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're delighted to bring you this live interactive webinar for a full hour as Bentley and Bureau Veritas present digital twins from vision to reality. I'm Julian Walker, the Editor-in-Chief of Pipeline Oil and Gas News, and I'll be moderating this live session. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. I know we have a global audience joining us for this webinar today. We are really happy that you've taken the time to be with us. Now, before we get started, I just want to bring your attention to the screen in front of you. As you can see, it is quite a dynamic screen, and you can move it around as it really has been designed for your ease and comfort, so you can be fully involved in the webinar. So do please move the screens around and get comfortable with the layout you prefer. You can also alert your friends and colleagues from the bottom of the screen as we are live for the next hour, so they can join us if they haven't signed up in advance. Each of our speakers will have a short presentation each, after which we will open it up to questions from you, the audience. We will also have 2 live polls during this webinar that we will do after the first presentation and then the second presentation. We would love you to participate in, the results of which will be shown shortly after the voting. We really want you to get involved, so please do put any questions to our experts throughout the show, which you can do on your screen, and we will make sure to ask as many as we can to our speakers. Finally, you will find some resources from Bentley that you can download and digest at your leisure after the webinar. Now, we're nearly all done with the main housekeeping. Let's get down to the business of today's webinar. I have a great panel of experts from Bentley and Bureau Veritas to discuss the important topic of digital twins. And I will introduce them very quickly to you now. You can see them on your screen. We have Alistair Stubbs from Bentley, who is joining us from London. And then we have Raja Alden from Bureau Veritas, who's based in Oman. And finally, Andrea DeLilio, also from Bureau Veritas, who is based in Rome. You can find their full bios on your screen as well. Now, let's get the webinar started, as I know all of you in the audience really want to listen to what our experts have to say and see their presentations. So, to kick things off, we're going to start with Andrea from Bureau Veritas, who will then be followed by his colleague Raja, who will carry on the Bureau Veritas presentation halfway through. Andrea, I leave it in your hands.
Thanks a lot, Julian. Just a quick confirmation that we can see the Shaping the World of Trust cover page from your side. Thank you very much. So we are going to start immediately. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here and participate to this first webinar that has been organized by Pipeline Oil and Gas in partnership with Bentley. And it is really a pleasure to represent Bureau Veritas in order to join efforts with Bentley and explore together the evolution of energy market and focus during today's webinar on the digital twin from vision to reality. I would like, let's say, to open my speech dedicating a thought to all people that are still facing some difficult times and sharing, of course, that we are all under pressure and willing to relaunch our new normal, to restart our business and recovering the last months, leveraging this tough experience to be more sustainable and innovative from our side. So I think that being part of Bureau Veritas as an OPEX oil and gas global director for the business development, it is worthy to share with you that Bureau Veritas is a global leader of testing, inspection, and certification market. And we like to say that we want to leave our mark leveraging our core values like independency, impartiality, and integrity that we are going to leverage also during this webinar in order to provide the angle of our solution. Normally, we offer our expertise to allow clients to access market, to build up a culture of safety, to improve reliability, to control cost, to ensure and protect the brand reputation and facilitate trading while managing license to operate. And to give a small example of what we have done in the last few months that were tough months for us, we have launched the experience that we're helping clients starting the business. Because like our CEO used to say, so we make Bureau Veritas as a business-to-business to society company in order to contribute to positively transforming the world we live in. And again, during this webinar, we will try to accomplish also to our mission that is to help clients to reduce risk, to improve performance, and help you to innovate, to meet society challenges with confidence. Entering in one of the key topics of this discussion today, we know that more than ever, we are convinced these days that access to energy is essential. And more than ever, I think we know that to ensure this benefit to the future generation, we have to consider to deal with the multiple challenges like climate change, geopolitical risk, and new disruption. Focusing on the energy market, we have to recognize that it has been more frequently than the past affected and impacted by the oil price. And this oil price, let's say, caused a delay once again in the CapEx rebound and generated strong CapEx cuts. And if we look at the last few months, we have another, let's say, trend on the lower oil demand that forced also some significant OpEx cut and strict cost-saving approach from the most of the operator, international and national company. On top of that, to complete the full context of the energy market, we all know that we need to get to a more sustainable energy, and we have action to be taken. So first, reduce carbon intensity, increase efficiency, and deploy more renewable. So very clear that the context where we are placing our stage, it is no doubt challenging. And looking at the client needs, in our daily-to-daily discussion with the client, it's crystal clear that health, safety, environment are confirmed to be an absolute. Looking at the asset, looking at the plant, we have to recognize that assets are aging. And some of the shutdown have been also deferred, while integrity and reliability are key priorities to meet production target. As we spoke about the climate change, it's important to remark that emissions and leaks are a major society alarm. We have mentioned already that capital defensive mode is the new normal. So just to go straight to the point, brownfield is a main concern these days. And we have to also take in account that there are 3 generations that are coexisting in the plant. And unfortunately, we have to also recognize that there are some people laid off, and travel policies that are stricter. So to combine all these, let's say, challenges and needs together, we will try to answer to a major question today, that is, how do we help operators and executives to make decisions and meet the goals while ensuring a proper risk management, asset efficiency, and of course, let's say, a cost saving. If I go back to, let's say, the last 20 years of experience in oil and gas, till a few years ago, we have heard more frequently that the business as usual was often good enough. But we are realizing that where we are going, the good enough seems to be, sorry to be a bit straightforward, but dead. And disruption is today the new normal, because we are going to engage with what might be. And the current fourth industrial revolution, it is considered like a democratization of computational power. And I think that it's clear to everyone that it helps human being and organization to access data and leverage information while carry out large-scale digitalization process. So we used to listen that a digital transformation is a journey, and we recognize that we have different technologies that are today very much more available than in the past. And in fact, most of the operators are placing the digital as a driver of their strategy. However, we have to confess that implementation is facing some challenge and delay. We will try to answer to 3 questions on top of the big one that we posed before. That is, what are the reasons of this delay? What can we do differently in order to accelerate and achieve? And how do move from vision to reality? That is the title of this webinar. I think that, and we believe you will see with Raja and Alistair in the coming section, that the digital twin empowers most companies to better understand the behavior of its business. And like Alistair used to say, unlocking the business you have today. And most importantly, to make decisions based on facts and robust data about the current situation. So I posed already the 2 questions before, what are the reasons of this delay and what we can do differently. With these 2 next slides, I'm trying to answer and then pose the foundation in order to help Raja and Alistair, let's say, to go in a deep dive. So in the digital transformation, we have 2 key players that are business and technology, and each one of them are having a key role. At the beginning, the digital transformation has been perceived as technology-driven, and we think that this approach has been a major reason of delay during the initial implementation. I think that we can all agree that technology represents the how and human represent the why. So based on that, and based on an experience on a daily basis with clients in tendering and proof of concept in project execution, we learned that a first strategic decision to be taken, it is to choose between technology and business-driven approach. And our advice is to give priority to the business-driven approach, making intelligence collaborative decision as a result of replicating processes or physical asset through digital asset in a virtual environment. So here we are making a first big step that it is to move from a physical asset to a digital asset in order to ensure processes replication and decision taken in an environmental, in a digital environmental. And what we know is that in the Greenfield project, we have already recognized to EPC contractor that digital is already perceived as a vehicle opportunity to ensure cost control, to boost productivity and profitability. However, consider the energy context with we mentioned already the CapEx rebound that has been delayed, the OpEx cut that are more challenging, the assets that are continuing aging, and people expertise that is split between different generations. I think that after this webinar, we can all confirm that digital twin into the brownfield started to be considered as a game changer. And in order to answer now to the big question that I posed at the beginning, that is, how do we help operators and executives to make decisions and meet business goals? I think that we will see later with Raja what is the definition of a digital twin, and we will agree with the Gartner, let's say, quote that that Raja will offer to us. But before to move to that step, I think that we have to make sure we build a bridge between the 2 key players that are business and technology. Because the first tips that we have already agreed is that we have to focus first on, let's say, a business-driven approach. And now we will try to pose the second tip, that it is what will represent the bridge between business and technology. We believe that data represents the bridge between business and technology. And we will see also with Raja in the how a digital twin solution is executed by Bureau Veritas, how the data represent a centrality in the process in order to ensure quality and also speed up the process. In our, let's say, experience, we have learned that in order to let's say, offer to operator and executive a decision-making system, we have to first focus on data. We have then used this data in order to build the proper information that will support the decision-making process. And a third stage of the project will be to enhance the power of the virtual environment, shifting from a more static approach to a more dynamic approach that will fully translate the vision in reality. But still today, the big challenges that we are facing in the plant, it is data availability and also the quality of the data. So I think that in order to finalize and conclude on this introduction from my side, with this today webinar, we propose to consider the digital twin as a solution to move from the vision to reality, provided that we follow the next 3 steps to succeed. As a first, to define a clear business objective, because it's business-driven, the approach, and translate this business objective in a clear KPI in terms of operational and asset KPIs. Then we access the data that are available in the plant, in the field, and will allow to calculate and monitor the progress to achieve the defined business KPI. But we also validate the data in order to ensure the quality of the data management process and the consequent quality of the result. Last, we select the most adequate methodology in order to leverage the available data and the proper technology in order to generate the most value. So I think that thanking you for the time you have dedicated to listen to me. I'm excited now to share and hand over the second part of the webinar to my colleague Raja, that will accompany all of us into a deep dive of the digital twin experience we are making with our oil and gas clients. Raja, floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrea. Capitalizing on Andrea, what he presented to us, now we'll go in a deep dive on a digital twin technology. What is the definition, as Andrea said, and what are the building blocks, and how we can implement it to shift this technology from vision to reality in the oil and gas industry. So first of all, I will start by defining the technology maturity in the itself, the digital twin. Here we are presenting the Gartner hype cycle for emerging technology. For those of you that don't know, Gartner is a consulting and consulting house or consulting office that have been tracking emerging technology over time and segregating them over different phases of their evolution, starting from innovation trigger up to plateau of productivity. And when we talk about the plateau of productivity, is the point or the evolution point of the technology where the technology is a mainstream, fully commercial, and implementation from a commercial point of view. When it comes to digital twins, in 2018, Gartner categorized the digital twin at the peak of inflated expectation, and the plateau of productivity was expected to be reached within 5 to 10 years. And we're talking about 2023 to 2028. However, from our interaction with the different industries globally and the oil and gas also, we have realized that this plateau of productivity is expected to be reached earlier than anticipated. In fact, we have realized that in several industries, there are now already capitalizing on these benefits on use of digital twins as part of their digital transformation. I can give examples such as the aviation industry and the manufacturing industry. Oil and gas, on the other hand, we have identified to be a late entrant to the club of adapting the digitalization and using of digital twin. However, there's a clear indication from the industry observed through the collaboration we are doing with clients, or quantum of the questions or discussions or even interest that have been shown from the oil and gas operators on this topic, that they are now, the industry is more acceptable to this technology and is more ready for its use in their operation in order to achieve the same objective that Andrea said from a digital transformation, which is improving business operations and creating more value out of that operations. Second is something that we need to lay the ground and understand on is the definition of the digital twin. So again, our interaction with all the oil and gas and other industry actually operators, there is no common understanding of a digital twin or definition of a digital twin. So when we talk to some clients or interact with some clients, they identify digital twin as a 3D CAD model that will represent their asset, physical asset. Others would say it's a as-is a digital model that is as-is and keep on updating. Others would say it is a 3D CAD model representing my asset and having infos and data associated to the tag. So it's a smart, I would say, digital model. Others would say it is simply, for me, it's a platform that would allow me to forecast the future asset conditions and accordingly take decisions. In fact, all the combination of all of these is a digital twin. However, to have a clear and meaningful definition, I would like to share the Gartner, again, definition of a digital twin. And as per Gartner, the digital twin is a software design pattern that represents a physical object with the objective of understanding the asset's state, responding to changes, and improving business operations and adding value. And we can realize from this definition that it includes all the above expectations of our definitions from the client. Adding to it, the most important highlighted text is improving business operation and adding value. And this is exactly how digital twins will support the digital transformation journey, but in terms of providing the ultimate objective of that journey, which are business resilience, business optimization, and value creation. Next, in order for a digital twin to be able to achieve this definition and the expectation of a client, we have identified, based on our experience and based on our interaction and projects delivery, we have identified 5 building blocks that should be present within a digital twin to qualify it when it is in use to achieve the ultimate objective of business and value. First is the representation. So, and again, all these blocks, when I go to the next slide, we will see that these can vary in different maturity level, still creating value, but definitely as we go up in the maturity level, more value is being created. So representation to have a meaningful and to fit as a digital twin, it should be a 3D model describing the as-is asset install. And this is where now we have the capabilities and the technology is advancing, and the platform of plant side, as will be described by Alistair, will allow us to have this digital model built up and flexibility to keep on tracking the change as we go in the life cycle of the asset. The second building block, which is very important and is one of the key blocks of the digital twin, is the data aggregation. And data aggregation is one of the main challenges that have been faced always by our clients in order to achieve the objective of the digital twin. Data aggregation is simply the combination of contextual historic data of the asset or static data of the asset that have been acquired throughout its life cycle, starting from construction, commissioning, and early phase of operation prior to the digital model implementation. And here I'm talking about PFDs, P&IDs, historic inspection reports, operation and maintenance manual data or reports, and combined with near-time or real-time data that can be extracted with advanced technologies nowadays from the connected devices, industrial Internet of Things, sensors, and other legacy systems that are already part in the operation of the asset that will help in order or will feed data about the asset condition. When we aggregate all this together and add it to the representation block of the digital twin using platforms like PlantSide, this will allow the second or the subsequent building block to kick off, which is the intelligence. And this is where the platform is expected to use this data that have been structured and linked to the digital 3D model using algorithms and advanced technologies such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, and data analytics, whether it is descriptive or up to the highest category, which is prescriptive. After that, now the operator is not able to take decision yet. However, all the recipe is in place in order for the operator to be presented with these insights or hindsights or foresights about the data that has been collected in order to take the proper decision. And this is exactly where the collaboration building block should be in place and should be an inherent part of the digital twin model, whereby the users can interact over the data that has been presented, the insights that have been provided about the asset operation, and provide feedback interoperable between each other, and monitor the KPI dashboards, which is, as I said, ultimately our digital twin should be monitoring how much are we away using the KPIs identified from achieving our objectives of business operation excellence or business resilience and value creation. And the KPI dashboarding is a very important part of this building block. And again, plant side, when Alistair will present, will show us how easy nowadays using the plant side platform to be able to configure the dashboards so that different levels of operators will be able to keep focus on the important aspects in order to achieve the ultimate objective. And finally, there will be the platform itself, which is an IT platform that is plant side. And today we are presenting the plant side in order to have all this binding or connecting information and connecting outcomes from all these building blocks in order to be an easy to use or user interface and seamless use of by the users. As I said, each of these building blocks could go through a different maturity level, and accordingly will produce a different, I would say, value added from the use of the digital twins. Always, as Andrea said, always data is the main building block in the digital twin. Without having a proper data, and I would say minimum it should be a structured data. So if we don't have a structured data, we'll not be able to capitalize on the other building blocks. We'll only simply see a 3D model of our physical asset. So the data should be first and foremost structured. Now we can talk about whether it is historic data and contextual data that is being available and need to be updated maybe at different intervals so that we can take meaningful insights out of it, or it could be nowadays with the sensors and with the IoT, we can talk about near or real data. But again, it should be always structured in order for other building blocks in order to use it and make meaningful outcome out of it. Second component is the intelligence. The intelligence is how we are going to use this structured data in order to be able to have meaningful decisions or informed decisions regarding our asset towards maintaining the ultimate objective of value creation and business optimization. And here we can talk about basic, intermediate, and advanced. So the more we go in this analytics capabilities, the more we will create value out of it. But still, a value can be created by simply presenting this structured data and using empirical or human judgment in order to take decisions. However, much more exponential value can be created once we go further in the maturity and we start using analytics, prescriptive or predictive analytics and artificial intelligence in order to have the better insights and better vision about the asset condition. The representation will help us to have these data when it's analyzed and presented to have more meaning to us and visually interact with the asset and location of the data. So the representation of the data and asset in a 2D and 3D will make it more meaningful for us to help us take the decision. And finally, the collaboration. Collaboration is simply because when we talk about assets, whether it is a single plant or whether it is a full portfolio of assets across an operator, there are multi-users and multi-stakeholders that need to be involved in order to implement the decision and implement the or read the KPIs or the insights in order to take define the decision and subsequently take it and monitor its implementation. So collaboration is a very important block in order to ensure that, because value will not be created by simply identifying the data insights and identifying the status of the asset. The value is being created, or the improvement is being created, when these are being taken in order to identify the proper decision early in time and subsequently implement the decision. So the collaboration component of the digital twin is very important in order to ensure this seamless operation of a digital twin and achieving the objective. This is another chart by Gartner that will show us how the data analytics, or the analytics in general, would, as we go in the difficulty on the technology, and most of these nowadays are available. And you want to talk to predictive, maybe in the prescriptive part of the analytics, we are still talking about the vision. And but in bottom line, a value, if you can see on this graph, a value can be created even if you have a descriptive analysis of the data. And where just simply will allow you to understand what happened to your assets. Or more insights can be taken when we analyze diagnostic analytics, when we have why did this happen. Another level of the analytics would be a predictive analysis, which what will happen. This will allow us to anticipate going forward using the data, historic data, what potentially could happen, and take the proper decisions in order to ensure the ultimate objective is being achieved. And maybe at a higher level, and I said now we are still in the vision stage and the technology is still developing. How can we make it happen? So which is the prescriptive analytics. So a message here is that value can be created wherever you are in the analytics. Something is better than nothing, but definitely yes, more value is created as we go in the maturity. Accordingly, it's more difficult to implement, however, and more investment need to put in place, but the value creation is much rewarded when we come to that decision. What is a digital twin? This is a simple representation of what I have discussed. So, and this would reflect the definition that we have agreed on to be used from Gartner. So, a digital twin is allow the user or the stakeholders of an asset to monitor the asset conditions and the external impacting conditions, process or other environmental conditions that are impacting the operation of the asset, apply and collect data and apply data analytics in order to have operation insights or foresights about the asset, predict failures, because our ultimate objective when we talk about oil and gas operation is to ensure that we reduce the unplanned downtime and operate safely and ensure reliability and integrity of the asset. As such, this analytics component will allow the operator in order to visualize all these KPIs, visualize all these data and all these insights, lay it over a representation of the asset and keep on tracking the important KPIs that will ensure leading or lagging KPIs that will ensure the achievement of the objectives, and accordingly take early decisions in case any deviation or abnormality is identified. And this is where the loop is closed by implementing these decisions, following them, and creating value through operation optimization and unplanned downtime reduction, HSE improvement, and reliability improvement. The second, I would like to present, because as we said, now we are talking about digital twin from vision to reality. So yes, and as Andrea said, our advice to oil and gas operators is that to build this vision based on business needs. not based on technological availability. And I guess Andrea have presented properly. So, and for that reason, we advise our clients to go through and this is based on what we have been doing and what we have interacted with clients, is to go through a scalable vision. The scalable vision is simply to identify use cases from a perspective of business cases or business use that will add value to the operation, identify the required data needed in order to be ensured that they are structured and built up properly in the databases, in order to identify which KPIs I need to monitor in order to achieve my ultimate objective of identifying or achieving the digital twin objective of value creation. The second step would be to develop like a proof of concept of your mini digital twin, I would say, and using actual data that have been identified. And here, when I say using actual data, we'll see in the next slide, it could be that sometimes after verifying and validating the data, we need to still go to the site and collect further data in order to ensure that all the data sets are available. But in the second stage, we will develop a proof of concept using actual asset data and implement it for a certain period of time in order to verify the value addition and the ultimate objective have been met. The second logical step would be now is to scale up this implementation. Scale up to probably to new assets, different upstream, downstream, or different sites, and add more functionalities and more use cases to the platform. And this scalable vision would allow you to also adapt the people component of the story, because in the oil and gas industry, we have to accept the digitalization, although it has been in use for some time from a different perspective of using digital tools, but still the holistic approach of digital twin is still not well adversed, and as such, the people component, people change of the methods they use is a very important aspect to ensure the success implementation of the digital twin. As such, when we go from a small scale proof of concepts and we scale up, this will allow us along the line to adapt or onboard the people component to the story. And ultimately, we need to keep on monitoring that the value capture and business optimization are being always achieved against the initial base case assumptions. If you realize under all these process, there is always the flexible IT and data infrastructure. Because if you recall at the start of the vision, we have only identified what we need for our specific base use in terms of technology or in terms of data requirement. However, as we grow in the scale, as we scale up our solution, there should be a new IT requirements needed, new technologies need to be added on, new data that need to be structured and validated and verified, so that the analytics component can take further the exercise. And this is exactly what we advise our clients is to select from the beginning a platform that will allow this flexibility. And this is why today plant side will be described and will be highlighted how flexible it is in order to ensure all this flow and the built-up and scalability of the project as we go is achievable. Finally, I would show how we can and how we have actually implemented this digital twin technology or this vision for actual example of for actual case of for clients. So and in order to because we know that data availability and data suitability is very key component for the success of the project. So we always start our implementation with a preparation phase, whereby we agree with the client or we advise the client and the operator on what are the base use cases that you want to foresee in the digital twin, what are the ultimate KPIs that need to be monitored, and what are the data that are required to be verified, structured, and presented in the digital twin in order to ensure the objective is met. And for that reason, this is where we spend a considerable amount of time in order to interact with the operator in order to identify all these steps. Subsequently, we're using different types of technology, laser scanning, drones, photogrammetry, whatever is technology available or required in order to collect the data that are not readily available with the client. And this will allow us to be focused on site, save time and save money from the data collection phase by concentrating only on the gaps that have been identified. Subsequently, we go to creating the model using contextual capturing and other platforms and plant site in order to populate and create the model from a geometric point of view and attach in the next stage the data enrichment or assign the attributes, creating the databases, and deploy the solution, including any required analytics that have been agreed with the clients in terms of the business use that have been identified. This is where the plant side platform will come in use in order to bind all these together in order to hand over I would say, a one-stop solution to the client, so that thereafter, using the capabilities development from Bentley for this platform, these can be scaled up, as we said in the previous vision, scalable vision that we have presented. So this makes it the end of my slide. I will hand over now to my colleague Andrea to have a wrap up about this part before going further in the other part of the webinar. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Mike,
we cannot hear you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. So, sorry. So thanks a lot, Raja, for this great and inspiring experience sharing. So today, I think that after your presentation, we can confirm, and after Alistair's speech, we will be fully convinced, I'm sure, that the digital twin is possible. And I think that we have got clear understanding now on the why, the what, and the how to make it happen based on the experience that we are making on the field. So it's clear that we also know that in order to start the journey, as we said from the beginning, because being a digital transformation journey, we have to leverage a business-driven approach. And we have made 3 tips that we want to reconfirm today. That is to start with operation asset KPI identification, then recognize the data as the bridge between business and technology, dedicates time on available data, then validate the data and process a clear qualitative data management in order to then select the adequate methodology to calculate and monitor the KPI, invest in the proper technology and intelligence in order to generate the most value. And it's very clear that, in my opinion, digital twin is the holistic vision of a real asset in the digital world. So today, we are living in a world where that is powered by knowledge sharing, and every one of us wants to have quick accessibility to the information. But at the same time, Aristotle said that the whole is more than the sum of its parts. So as a takeaway, we believe that, let's say, digital twin, it is an opportunity for the oil and gas market to innovate more rapidly through a collaborative data-driven decision process. It will enable operation to protect employees, it's very important, asset and environment. It will foster an advanced holistic approach to the asset management, as Raja was saying, aggregating data to build information and improve business operation and adding value. And definitely it will open up the development for real management and prediction. So I would like to thank you all again for the time. Stay safe, shaping a world of trust, and I'm glad to hand over to Julian.
Great, thanks Andrea, and appreciate you and Raja as well. Really interesting presentations that gave us a deep dive into digital twin and get a better understanding of how you can bring it from vision to reality. Before we go to our next presentation with Alistair, we're going to do our first poll of the webinar, which you will see now on your screen. We are asking, what is your biggest day-to-day challenge? Prioritizing tasks, B, lacking data information to make good decisions, C, finding up-to-date engineering information. And finally, too much data coming in from sensors. So if you can all just have a quick think about this, and there should be a submit button below this poll, and then we will wait and show you the live results from the audience. And before we just go to that, I've got one quick question that has come in for you, Raja, from Rory Shankar, who was just asking, under value creation from analytics, what diagnostic analytics does this include? It was on one of your slides, Raja.
Yes, yes. So analytics, as you said, is taking the data that has been structured, whether it is historic or near-time, real-time, in order to look for the future. When we talk about diagnostic, look to the future. So this can be applied to any asset integrity KPI, whether it is RCM, RBI, or corrosions. Nowadays, we are having a lot of sensors to detect corrosion and then transfer it, and then we can build diagnostic in terms of looking forward for the asset in terms of degradation rates. Another one could be the, for example, when we talk about rotating equipment, we can talk about vibration, we can talk about oil condition monitoring, we can talk about temperature. So all these, when we are able to extract this data from the asset and put it on the analytics, we can able to predict for the future using this data.
Super. Great. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. Thanks a lot, Raja. And I think the results are in now, so we're just going to show the live results from the audience. Let's have a look. So, from what we see, I think the biggest challenge everyone is saying is the lack of data and information to make good decisions. Alistair, what do you think about that? Is that sort of what you've seen in sort of dealing with clients, and the sort of a real sort of lack of data out there?
Yeah, hi there, everybody. Yeah, I think that result just confirms what we've seen elsewhere. Typically, what we're seeing is that people are, and our users are looking for solutions to help them improve their decision making. That's often about confidence and access to that information, whether it is engineering or, importantly, the information that Raja and Andrea were highlighting, that is more than just the model, the test results, the commissioning results, etc. It is actually the main thing people want to seek to use a digital twin to do, to bring that information together to make it more easily consumable. I think that then actually solves what is the second highest element on that list as well. But once you've got that information, it becomes much easier to prioritize those tasks and activities. I think for a lot of people, solving those two, as I say, that's nearly 70% of the total vote there. It would make our lives a lot easier if we'd nailed those.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thanks for everyone participating. As I said, that we'll have another poll after Alice's presentation. And I think, we're going to go straight into our final presentation now, which also has a few videos where Alistair is going to look at Bentley's plant site platform. So over to you, Alistair.
Okay, thanks, Julian, and thanks, everybody. So really, I just want to build on the great introduction that focused very much on the business value. Why are we doing this digital twin that Veritas, Andrea and Raja highlighted? It is all about business value, and a digital twin can seem to be a very daunting challenge. But really what I hope to be able to show is that it's not an unattainable mountain that we've got to climb, but actually a digital twin is a journey that we can all go on that builds on the step before to utilize the information you've already got in the format that you already have, importantly, and gives you the ability to utilize that information to continuously improve it, and then start to bring in information from your operational systems so that you can achieve the outcomes that were highlighted in that poll around being able to make better and more informed decisions. So really, let's look at this from two perspectives. Let's take an operator who is working on a plant. They're faced with a piece of equipment that needs some maintenance or some work or just a decision to use it or not to use it. And really what we want to try and do is give them complete access to all of the information that we've got around that asset. So here we're just highlighting some simple piping, but maybe we can see immediately how it fits in an analysis or a simulation, where the role is in a schematic, what the components are that are coming out of an isometric, etc. And you can assemble very quickly, at the point that you need it, the information you have about that particular piece of equipment or asset. And of course, an executive needs to know that the people they are working on in those leadership positions who are working and managing and operating the plant actually have accurate data so that they can make informed decisions that will meet the company goals and objectives, will assure the compliance and the safety, will mitigate the risks, all while making sure that the business obviously is profitable and is returning value to the business, shareholders and such like. Often the focus there is on reliability and resiliency of that business, and we're seeing increasingly the importance of a digital transformation in helping organizations achieve that. I'm going to start with a simple video that is intended to show an existing asset, a very simple model built using photogrammetry, but we've also in here been able to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to automatically recognize components in the system. And in this instance here, we're going to see that the user is going to highlight a very simple pump in here, and immediately we can access the data about that pump and indeed link to operational systems that are showing what that pump is doing at this particular point in time. That data can come from a variety of different solutions. In this case, it was a simple building control solution. I'm waiting for the next video. And this next video is then showing that once we've got a digital twin and we've captured it, we haven't yet got necessarily an engineered model. But what happens if we want to modify that plant or extend that plant? In this case, this is a fairly significant expansion. And we can see we're using a digitally captured reality model using photogrammetry that's part of the digital twin. And we're routing some pipe through that because it is a comprehensive engineered model. You can see here we're just going to zoom in. We're going to add some pipe supports here. We're connecting, if you like, the reality model, if you're built from the photogrammetry, with an engineered model at this important tie-in point. We can see clash detection. We can use all the typical engineering tools, and we can just route this pipe to ensure that it's both supported and aligned with the existing assets. Step on to the next level. So we're seeing here how we're reusing the information that we have already, the photogrammetry models, integrating it and building on that with your existing engineering systems, your control systems, and then using it to improve the asset. In this video, we're just going to step now into the actual digital twin itself and start to show and begin to show how we can expand that digital twin by aggregating information again from other sources that we may have about the plant. In this case, we're doing an import of some additional data into that digital twin from a simple Excel spreadsheet. And here we can see the actual plant breakdown structure that we already have on the left and how that aligns with the data in the Excel spreadsheet on the right. And we're able to very simply bring information over and incorporate it into the digital twin. We can compare the information before and after, and here we can see we're bringing that extra information over. So here, again, we're continually improving the digital twin. We're adding information sources that we've already got to make it ever more complete and comprehensive. This next video shows how we can begin to integrate and collaborate, again, picking up the importance of external collaboration. We've got issue management going on around the digital twin. We're able to view it as an engineered model, but of course, an awful lot of plant decisions are made in a two-dimensional space. Here is a schematic, and of course, we're able to link schematic information to the plant breakdown structure and to a 3D model, again, whether it's engineered or whether it is a model that is created using a reality mesh from context capture. As you navigate the model, you can see we can access information about the object, and we're obviously aligning. You can see the alignment between the 3D and the 2D models. So we're building and expanding, continually enhancing the content of that digital twin. This next video is showing how we can bring even more operational systems. This incorporates a dashboard from our partners Siemens Solution XHQ, which is showing a number of plants in different geographic regions. And very quickly we can see a summary here and see that there are some challenges in one of our locations, and we can drill into that location here to see a mimic and begin to diagnose what the challenge is, all from the context of that digital twin. So increasingly, as we've added and built on the digital twin, we're beginning to be able to see how we can operate the whole plant or a fleet of plants from a digital twin. And the final video here that I wanted to highlight is focused on having now got that digital twin. We're able to start using the models to highlight where we've got alarms. There are some lift pumps here that are in an alarm situation, and we can pull up information about them, whether it's a photograph or indeed the actual alarm parameters themselves. We can see those various different information from a hazard or a risk or reliability study, and ultimately we can acknowledge those alarms. And even in this instance, having acknowledged them, we can activate and push work in our maintenance management system to address the particular problems that have been highlighted. And you can imagine this digital twin is enabling an operator to do this over the web from any location in the world. And this is really giving real insight, being able to drill from a fleet of assets down progressively into an individual asset, into specific pieces of equipment, enabling you to prioritize appropriately, ensuring you've got access to the information that you need about that plant in order to make informed decisions and actually operate and manage that plant in an informed way from the digital twin. So that's the last video. If I just advance to just some summary slides now, we can see how using the digital twin, we've taken the information from the physical asset, we've built on the information you've got today, we've got engineering data, we've got operational information, and we've got surrounding information that's all been brought together in the digital twin to enable you to operate it in a variety and consume information in a variety of different ways. importantly, across the entire life cycle of that asset, whether you're looking at planning a new one, making engineering modifications, operating on a day-to-day basis, or indeed you are a maintenance engineer working on the plant. So we believe, very much in line with what Bureau Veritas introduced at the beginning, that the business value comes from being able to break down the silos of data you've got, consolidate and build a progressively improving digital twin to enable collaboration across your company, your organizations, but importantly, the wider supply chain, and get a hold of and find the relevant information that you need to make those complex decisions from the mass of data that you've got by enabling significant focus. Which leads to the last poll, Julian. I'll hand back to you.
Great, super. Thanks, Alistair. What a great interactive presentation there. And yes, we're going to just do our final poll of the webinar. So everyone just have a look. We're just asking what data sources are most important to you to access in a digital twin. And you'll see we have 8 options there, which obviously you will need to scroll down to look for all of them. So if you just have a quick question, vote on that, and then we'll have a live vote, and then we'll go to some questions. And actually, while we're waiting, there's one question that's come in, I think probably best put to you, Alistair. Just Bill Adhami was just asking, why is the webinar called Digital Twins, or the platform that Bentley you use the plural of the twins?
So it's interesting that it's called Digital Twins. We certainly like the S on the end of that, because we think that it's the bringing together of lots of information. We think a digital twin, again, completely agree with Bureau Veritas's definition, is something that you're sustaining. It becomes the center around which you decide to operate your assets. So therefore it has to be sustained and lived with. Its industry terminology as a digital twin just comes from trying to build this digital replica that exists in the virtual world, that ideally we're trying to do and trial and test opinions, scenarios and such things safely in the digital domain than the physical domain.
Great, thanks, Alistair. Well, I think we're ready to go live with the answers to the call. There we go. So, there's quite a few different options there, but we have sort of a near tie, actually, between IoT and data and P&ID for the most important use of data. Andrea, maybe I'll go to you on this one. Is this sort of what you see as well as a sort of important data uses?
Yeah, thanks, Julian, for, let's say, allowing me to step in this, let's say, poll, because I was expecting, let's say, a quite balanced answer, because we all know that the digital, let's say, twin is an holistic system. So in reality, what are the data sources that are most important? It is really depending on what is your role. Because if you are, let's say, entering into the digital twin because you are from the engineering department, I'm sure that you are going to search for CAD files and PNIDs, for instance. If you are from the inspection or maintenance, you want to see more the work history or data historian. If you have to, let's say, plan the next shutdown, you want to access to the upcoming work. So it's very clear that it was maybe a tricky question that we have posed, but most probably we have, let's say, more people from maintenance and inspection with data historian and engineering department from PNID and CAD files that are attending the webinar. What do you think?
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, I think it's a show of who's watching the webinar, probably with those answers there. So it's sort of subject to opinion. Great. Well, we've also, thanks for everyone for sending in questions throughout the webinar. And in the last 5 to 6 minutes, I'm just going to ask our speakers a few of the questions that have come in. And then, so we've got one here from Mohammed Farja. might be a hard one, but he's sort of asking, how do you feel we could implement digital twin on a refinery that has been operating for 40 to 50 years already? So I think sort of looking, how can you implement digital twin on a refinery that's been going for quite a while? Maybe I'll put Raja. What would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, no problem. It's exactly the scale-level vision that we have presented. Because an operating refinery, definitely you will not be able to have digital engineering models during the implementation. So however, you will be having a lot of historic data available. And I can share some experiences. Sometimes we have to struggle to select which data to use because we have a lot. There's a lot of history. So we have to stop at that point of time. So I believe the scalable vision I have presented is a better example or a vision. Start by a unit, a mini twins, and then you scale up as you go once you confirm that this data availability and data transfer of data to a digital platform would be your challenge. You need to verify it, validate it before you put it on a platform. But always do this, my advice, do this in relation to the business case or business use you are trying to achieve. And then you scale up as you go.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Raja. We've got a question here from Urabu Dambata, who's just asking, where are we at the moment in terms of readiness and maturity level of the digital twin technology deployment in the oil and gas industry? Maybe I'll put that to you, Alistair.
Yeah, I think the digital twin technology is maturing very quickly. Bentley has been involved in some very large-scale deployments now, so in terms of that, we're very confident of our technology. Used various different components at very, very large scale. So, you know, some of the images you saw in the videos were our context capture systems. You know, we have some users of ours who are capturing many square kilometers of complex plant on a regular basis, for example. So that's being used, very applicable to existing assets. So I'll just link back to Mohammed's earlier question as well. So in terms of the readiness and the maturity level, I think that technology is there to do this. I think I'd like to really highlight the reasons and the objectives that you want to get out of it. Again, what is the business driver for doing it to enable you to focus on the areas that will give you the maximum value? Again, Raja was saying very, very good, very well. Existing assets have a massive data, and the challenge is picking that data. That, again, is guided by having the vision and knowing where you're aiming for in order to progress in the right direction and pick the right technology. The technology to integrate your systems, whether they're operational or engineering or whatever, is all there and is proven. It is pulling it together and building those stones one on top of each other that, as an ongoing strategy, that is the challenge now.
Great, thanks, Alistair. And on Andrea, you remarked the key role of data availability and validation. You mentioned clearly that the first decision to be taken is to set up a business-driven approach. Can you just give a few examples of KPIs and related data management challenges?
Yeah, thanks, Julian. Let's say I think that this will clarify more, let's say, with practical example what we are trying to explain. In fact, on a daily basis, we are experienced with clients around the world the strategic decision, for instance, to implement an asset integrity management system. This is a very common request we receive that require to combine different expertise in order to integrate inspection experience, NDT capabilities, engineering services, to ensure, in the most of the cases, plant integrity and to improve safety. So I think that you all agree that integrity and safety are both to be considered as a potential business objective. I have a noise in the ears that I don't know if it is same for you. Can I go ahead, or there is anything that we can do? Okay. So depending on the client experience, we can translate the KPI of plant integrity and safety through specific, measurable, also attainable, relevant, and time-bound KPI. So for example, in order to measure the plant integrity, we have to be in the condition to define, as usual, a baseline. In order to do that, we have to access the available data. If we are in a downstream in a refinery, as Raja and Alistair were saying, the bunch of data are so many. But anyway, we have to access general info, process data, mechanical data, safety system, inspection records, and so on. But after that, we have to validate this data, because in the most of the case, as it could happen, these data are not maybe updated. If available, it could not be updated. And based on the availability of this data and the validation, then we decide the methodology that we want to use. So assuming that we decide to perform a risk-based approach, that is, Raja was mentioning RBI. So depending on the availability of this data, we can decide if we are in the condition, depending on the volume of data, on the quality of data, to perform a qualitative analysis or to make a semi-quantitative assessment or study, or eventually to run a deep calculation, that is a quantitative calculation, for instance, in according to the standard of the API 581. And in case the business objective requires really to have the proper quantification with the probability of failure, consequence of failure, financial consequences, and the risk value, of course, and required to define, to get a strict figures in order to see if we are achieving or we have not achieved the KPI, it's clear that this request has to match with the availability of the data and the validation of existing data. On the contrary, if we don't have enough data or we have to revalidate the data, we have to invest time and efforts to validate or generate also the required data to make possible the calculation. So this is just an example for plant integrity using an RBI methodology and then how to run the calculation. I think that in conclusion, we can all agree that having a digital twin representing the asset in 3D and with the RBI color coding, it's possible today. And it will definitively help operators and executives to make the decision to meet the goal of plant integrity. The strategy is to make it happen. It's depending still on the data availability and the data quality.
Great, thanks, Andrea. Well, we're now going to have to wrap up this webinar, but I'd like to thank everyone for joining us in this last hour and a bit as we looked at digital twins and learned why digital transformation is really a journey and how data-driven decisions can bring about real value. From what our experts have said and from the results from the 2 polls, plus the questions that we got in, it is clear that digital twins set to play a key part of a company's digital transformation journey and can really bring around value through data. Once again, I really want to thank our speakers, Alistair Stubbs, Raja Albin, and Andrea Delilio for joining me. It has been great to have your expertise and input into why you feel digital twin is so important. Finally, I want to thank everyone for joining this live webinar. This is the first one we've done, and we'll have many more in the future. You will be able to rewatch this webinar on demand. We will make available within the next 24 hours. Plus, you will get an email in a few days with a link to the online recording. Thanks all for watching, and I hope you have a good morning, day, or evening. Stay safe, and do keep following us for the latest industry news and insights. From all of us here, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.